Hi everyone, Sean Walbin with Secure Cyber Defense, and this is a special edition of your weekly video cyber update. I'm on vacation this week, so I decided to film an additional episode that I could preload and it can air out because I'll be out of the office. So what I want to talk about today is I want to focus a little bit more. We've done a lot of reporting on Volt Typhoon and the threats from China. Everyone knows at this point, it's no secret that China has access to some of our critical infrastructure, specifically water, wastewater, power, some of those verticals. And what I want to talk about today is specifically what we know about that threat actor and how they gain their initial access, some of the top items on the list of preventative measures to stop this from happening, and then talk just a little bit about some best practices. So what we know so far is this particular threat actor does extensive pre-compromise activity. So in the recon stage, they're scanning for vulnerable devices that are sitting directly on the edge. There's been a lot of talk about Fortinet specifically and all of the unpatched FortiGates that are out there. And this is this is one example of how they're gaining access. There was a specific case that was confirmed that involved a FortiGate 300D. It was unpatched and compromised, and they utilized the SSL VPN vulnerability in order to further compromise the environment. So when we look at, there were other manufacturers on the list as well. Ivanti Connect Secure, formerly Pulse Secure. So we've certainly seen a lot of activity in the news involving Ivanti. CISA themselves was compromised with their Ivanti equipment. Netgear, Citrix, Cisco, we've even seen Ubiquiti on the list as well. So, taking some responsibility on internet-facing devices and making sure that they're patched. Also, making sure that they're configured correctly externally. There's a specific specific task that you can go through on a FortiGate in order to lock it down from an external perspective, to make sure that people cannot see that device unless they're permitted from a specific IP address. So just in its default state, you could potentially be, even though the FortiGate itself could have really secure rules and those types of things, if you didn't address the external piece of it, that device can be seen and it can be scanned. So applying patches on internet-facing devices as soon as possible. Engaging in a service that scans externally all those devices for you in a third-party type situation to make sure that no internet-facing devices sneak onto your network and they're unpatched. Implementing phishing-resistant MFA. So that's the YubiKey technology and FIDO2. In February, I believe, here at the Go Cyber Collective, we had a external company come in from YubiKey to explain kind of what FIDO and FIDO2 is and how phishing-resistant MFA works. If you're not familiar with the Go Cyber Collective, that's a cybersecurity networking and education group. It's a nonprofit that I started that meets the third Wednesday of every month. GoCyberCollective.org is all the information that you would need to see the future speakers, and as well as you can even go back and download the YubiKey presentation. Logging is repeatedly addressed in these documents. So there's extensive information about how to properly set up a logging infrastructure inside your environment. Volt Typhoon specifically uses something called living off the land, and LOTL is one of the abbreviations that you'll see. So living off the land involves not your specific or your more common tactics that you'll see where a threat actor is installing malware or ransomware. It involves getting access into the environment and then using existing tools and users inside the environment to mask their activity. So having very extensive logging that is stored centrally is very key to investigating and finding these threat actors once they're in the environment in order to eradicate them. And then addressing end-of-life assets. So I talked about the FortiGate 300D that was used in this attack. the D series, I'd have to look at the end of life list for Fortinet, but the FortiGate 300D may be end of life already, and there might not be patches available for it. So you've really got to have a good inventory of your external facing assets, where they are on the life cycle, and then certainly making sure that they're properly patched and configured. In this particular case, on the what we know area, so they perform extensive pre-compromise activity. The initial access is a known 0-day inside either Fortinet, Ivanti, those pieces of equipment. They then get access to the domain controller and extract the Active Directory database. There's then an offline password cracking process that's used in order to apply hashes to these passwords in order to get them exposed. And then they continue on with continued elevation and credential takeover to access eventually getting over to the OT network and getting deeper access. In many, many cases, the OT network is not properly segmented in VLAN and firewalled off from the enterprise environment. So that just allows the threat actor to get deeper and deeper access. So on the best practice, I'm just gonna cover a couple of the levels of things that you can do, and we'll post the reference material in the notes on the YouTube video. But extensive logging, I can't enforce that enough. Enabling extensive logging in your environment, establishing and continuously maintaining an inventory of tools and software. If you look at the CIS controls, the Center for Internet Security, the top 18 controls, Control 1 and Control 2 is know your hardware and know your software. If you don't know this equipment, then you're not able to mount a defense, and you may not, if you don't know what you have, then if something happens and a specific device needs to be addressed, you may not even know that you have it. Using automation to continually review logs and increase efficiency in hunting activities. If you're in an environment that you haven't engaged automation at this point, we think that's key to winning this battle. So some form of automation has got to be involved in order to get through all of this activity, in order to basically find a needle in a haystack, essentially is what you're trying to do, and reduce alert noise. So reducing that noise floor and trying to get those events, those critical events to pop, the ones that are relevant, that's key. And then on the hardening side, just strengthening software configurations, using something like the CIS benchmarks. So the Center for Internet Security has a benchmark website where you're able to go in and basically pull up different software systems, and it gives you a complete guide on how to harden that particular device and make it more resilient. Application whitelisting, so having a good idea in your environment what applications need to run. That way, if a malicious application sneaks onto your network, it's not able to execute. Segmentation and monitoring. The segmentation piece is something that we see that's lacked a lot. So proper segmentation, getting those transit VLANs to go through your firewall, and upgrading to next generation firewall technology is a way to apply security controls to that east-west traffic, not just the north-south. So north-south being internet, and then east-west being the traffic that's inside your network. And then one of the last things is just authentication controls. So making sure that you've got things set up in your environment, password hygiene, that you're looking at your Active Directory environment and you're knowing what accounts are on your network, which ones should be there and shouldn't be there, and then tying that into multi-factor access, specifically with hardened things like YubiKeys. So that really, there's a lot more to talk about. This is a very extensive problem. It's very complicated. There's a lot of documents out there to go through. I love CISA. They give a lot of information on the guidance on all of the steps, to not the detailed steps, but the things you need to do, but not explaining exactly how to do it. And that's something of a passion of mine that I'd like to do more, is explain in a little bit more detail how these things get done. That's one of the main reasons why the Go Cyber Collective exists today. So, there's a specific educational environment that's attended by your peers that you can sit in an environment and learn from others on the tools and techniques, that they're using in order to secure their environments. That's it for this special edition. This kind of covers Volt Typhoon as an overview, who they are, what they've been doing, and how they're gaining access. So patch and patch often, and then replace the aged equipment and enforce MFA. That's all for today. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.